Howdy ladies and gentlemen, this is Daniel here with RoslynRags, and today I'd like to show you a tie-dye. I would like to show you a circle and a square. And I have a bandana here. It's been soaked in soda ash and it is damp. So what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to fold it in half again so it's in quarters. And right now we're looking at a two-pointed star, and what I'm going to do is I have a washable marker on a string, and I'm going to draw out a half a circle that gets fairly close to the edges. It'll probably be about an inch from the edges of the bandana when we're all done. Maybe a little bit less than that. So here is your circle, and I'm going to try and mark that fairly well because we're going to have to look through the fabric. I'm going to fold it one more time before we start tying it up. And now, to get the square, we're just going to mark off equal distances. I'm going to just pick a nice point. 8 inches looks good. I'm going to mark that off here. I'm going to go around to the other side. I'm going to mark off 8 inches there. And I'm going to connect the dots. And this will end up being our square. We have 4 layers of material, so this will end up making 90-degree corners, and we'll have a square. It makes it a little bit difficult to fold, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn this two-pointed star and kind of treat it like a four-pointed star. So we're going to fold the 2 quarters back into themselves again, and hopefully we can see the design, so I'm going to draw it a little bit better over this top layer. So we have the circle right here, and then we have the square right here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start with folding the square first, and I'm just going to make little fan folds. I'm going to stay on the table for this one, and I'm just going to follow that line. There you go, and I'm going to put some rubber bands on it. And the tighter that you get, I'm going to put rubber bands on each side of the line. I'm not going to put any rubber bands on the line itself. And the tighter that you get this binding, the less chance you have of dye going in between the two sides. And I'm going to put a rubber band right here as well. Probably about a quarter inch, probably about a quarter inch from the line itself. There's a little bit bigger rubber band, so it's taking a little bit longer. Now let's start folding up the circle. Right now we're looking at what is that, 1/8 of a circle, and I'm just going to make little fan folds up the line that I made of the circle, and sometimes you may have to tug the fabric a little bit to get it to do what you want it to do. But there is the circle, and I'm going to, just like the square, I'm going to put some rubber bands on each side of the circle. It looks like, just because of the amount of material that we have here, I'm getting a little bit closer to the line, but we can just go a little bit further from the line on the outside half. And once again, I'm just going to put some rubber bands on this side of the circle, and then I'm going to bind the outside kind of just back into itself. So seems like it takes the dye a little bit easier when the parts of the fabric are touching each other compared to when everything's just kind of loose and flopping about. So here is that, and now I'm going to just kind of shore this up with a rubber band. And so here we have a folded square circle. This is the inside of the square. This is the square itself. This is in between the square and the circle. This is the circle, and this is the outside of the circle. So let's go dye. Welcome down to my dye room, everybody. Here we have the square circle, and I do believe that this is the outside of the bandana. This is the inside of the bandana. The very center of it is that little flap right there. This is the square. This is the circle. This is the part in between the square and the circle. This is a soda ash soaked bandana that is damp. It is not overly wet. You can't wring it out, but it's wet enough. I found that when cotton is dry, sometimes the dye doesn't want to go into it. So when it has a little bit of moisture to it, just the water can flow into the cotton a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I have some bright green, and I'm going to do the square and the circle first, and I'm going to do them bright green. So I'm going to do the more even side, in my opinion, if you can detect an even side in your folding. So I'm just going to put some bright green down on this part, which I do believe is the circle. I'm just going to keep on putting dye down until I feel like there's enough. And the more compressed the fabric gets, you may want to add a little bit more dye to it, just to make sure that it gets all the way in there. Sometimes when it's too compressed, or if it's small, you can it'll kind of drip around and you can't tell when you're fully saturated. So I'm just going to put some in, let it sit, and then add some more. And that's probably pretty good. I'm going to give it a little squeeze, and you can, I don't know if you can see that, but there is moisture coming out as I squeeze it. That's good enough. I'm going to add some more green on this side, and hopefully that's going to be enough. Now I'm going to work on the square. I'm going to put some green on the square on this side of it. And then when I feel like there is enough, and don't just or you can if you want to, but I try not to squeeze too much dye on, otherwise it may not bleed or go into the fabric. It may just disperse out. It may go over your rubber bands that you put down, and they're kind of blocking it, kind of little placeholders for you to see where you want to put your dye. Alright, that looks good enough for me. So now I'm going to put some dye on this side. Let it soak in a little bit, and then put some more on. Nah, I just said more on. Alright, give that a little squeeze. And I also like to squeeze both from the sides and also from the top and the bottom, just to kind of give that a little bit more motivation to go down into the fabric. And then for the outside, the middle, and the inside, I figured I would do a dark green. So I'm going to start on this side, and I'm going to start in the middle here, in between the square and the circle, and I'm going to put a fair bit of green in. There's almost a little cup right here, so you can just kind of dump some dye down and it'll go into the fabric. Since there's already green, the bright green here and here, the dark green isn't as likely to go through it, disperse into it, since there's already dye there. If it was white, if you can see the edges, the green's already gone this far into it, which it doesn't matter, it's just a surface thing, and that's one of the fun things about tie-dye. Nobody will really know what you're going for. The videos will be up as long as this is a success, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a success. I don't see why this square circle is not going to be a square circle. I'm sure a lot of people have tried to make square circles before. I guess it's a square inside a circle. And yeah, I'm just sitting here applying dye to this side, and once I feel that it's pretty well saturated, I'll give it a little squeeze, and then I will flip it over, and it looks pretty well saturated there. Maybe a little bit more right here. A nice green. Alright, now I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to put green on the middle, in between the square and the circle. I'm going to put green on the the very center of the bandana. And it doesn't take as much green this time around. And I'm going to put green on the end of the bandana. Looks like I'm going to need a little bit more green than I was using on the other parts, but this is the thickest part of the fold, so that makes sense that it needs a little more dye. And I'll just give those a little squeeze, trying not to allow any of the dark green to get onto the bright green. Not that that would matter too much, it would just kind of shade it. It won't take that much away from the bright green, but there you go. There is the square circle, folded and dyed. So thanks for watching.